Welcome to San Francisco, California. Welcome to California. I am only just a few hours into this crazy whirlwind of a trip, but wow, so much has already happened. Working, I've also started doing this thing where I make my own matcha on planes, and I am obsessed with that. And then we hit the ground running. So I'm only here for 2 days. So we spent today pretty much exploring San Jose. Let me show you what we got up to. Our first stop was to grab coffee, and I had kind of low expectations for this place, but it ended up being amazing. Something amazing about California is you don't have to work too hard to find incredible coffee shops because the West Coast is very ahead of the rest of the United States in just better ingredients, better sourced coffee. This is very sweet, but I got a coconut cream coffee, and it kind of tastes like pina colada coffee, and I'm a huge fan. Our first sightseeing stop was the Sonic Lights, and unfortunately it only works at night, but these are a really cool way to visualize the speed of sound. So it works with music and lights, and honestly I can't tell you much about it because unfortunately we went during the day. Our next big stop was Monopoly in the Park. So this is a life-size playable Monopoly game, and you can actually play it. However, it's $300 and you have to schedule it ahead of time. As much fun as I think it would be to play $300, absolutely not.
I passed out. You owe me $200. $100.
This isn't in the budget. There's lots of jails in Chicago.
It was also so hot. I think we weren't ready for that because in Chicago it's still kind of in that in-between season where it's like warm and cold and you gotta bring a jacket, but we were sweating. We had an absolutely incredible day wandering around San Jose, but it is worth noticing how empty the streets were on the middle of a weekday. It was really beautiful, very artsy, greenery all throughout the city, but it did feel a little bit post-apocalyptic just because of how empty it was. We decided to head to an Italian restaurant. I had planned to get pizza, but after looking at the menu, I decided I had to get something a little more authentic and hearty. This was gorgeous. This actually reminded us of a restaurant we went to on our honeymoon in Greece, but it overlooked this gorgeous river. The whole time we were eating, I was just watching butterflies fluttering around, which was gorgeous. I didn't actually ask the chef, but the bread tasted homemade. But honestly, as great as the food was, this place was really notable for its atmosphere. I know you guys did not click on this video to hear about the San Francisco airport, but can we talk about the San Francisco airport? Absolutely incredible. There's a freaking playground right after we get out of the terminal. There's like sculptures. Everything is gorgeous. We then headed to a coffee shop. It was honestly like one of the most original cups of coffee that I've had in a really long time. So it was so refreshing. I love eating locally when I travel. I was Googling in the Uber, like a Reddit thread of favorite restaurants from locals, and they suggested this incredible Italian place, and there was this beautiful window that overlooked this like creek. So the whole time we were eating, we were literally watching butterflies. So now you're caught up. That's what we've been up to. I am staying in literally the bougiest hotel I have ever seen in my life. Let me show you what's up. We stayed at the Ameswell Hotel, and this is not somewhere that we would have stayed if Alex had not been here for a work trip, but it was really, really cool. I've never stayed in a place like this. It was so luxurious and fun. Gorgeous, gorgeous pool view. Beautiful. Look at those sunbeams. Incredible. And then this is really fun. So apparently this room is equipped with a Lululemon mirror. I don't even know what that means. I just read about it on a pamphlet that was sitting on our bed. Also, check this out. Hello. And then gorgeous, gorgeous walk-in shower. Also, I've never actually used like a hotel robe before. So my plan tonight is to definitely use that. Alex is getting ready to head off to a Michelin star restaurant. I'm so jealous, but also I'm not. I'm so happy for him because it's been his dream to eat at a Michelin star restaurant for literally ever. And I'm excited because I am planning on having a really cozy night in. I don't even want to think about how much it must cost to stay at a place like this, but I don't have to worry about it because work trip, you know what I mean? So I think I'm gonna get cozy, and tomorrow I'm gonna explore San Francisco. What I'm really most excited about is we have a trip planned to Alcatraz. Alcatraz is a prison that's like no longer functioning, but at one time it was considered the highest security prison for the worst of the worst. So I'm talking Al Capone, Machine Gun Kelly, all of them. But there was a prison break and they don't know if they survived. There's a lot of like hearsay back and forth. I'm gonna DoorDash in and out, and I am gonna watch this Alcatraz movie, listen to lore, maybe like pull up a podcast, but I could not be more thrilled or more excited for my night. So with that, I am ready to hop in and enjoy it, and I cannot wait to take you guys with me on the rest of this trip because seriously, I am so excited to be here. Welcome to San Francisco, baby! Okay, that's all. Okay, a slight change of plans. In and out is not on Uber Eats. Good morning! Ubers are like really expensive in California. I'm gonna be traveling 40 miles up into San Francisco. I'm gonna attempt to take the public transit, which I'm actually really excited about. I've like done all my safety checks. I feel good about it. Okay, I'm also wondering if I'm like officially a Chicago native because yesterday it was 78 degrees and Alex and I were both dying. We were like, oh my gosh, heat stroke for real, for real. And then I checked the weather and I was like, 78 degrees. So I am curious to see, are we gonna melt today? What's gonna happen? I brought like an extra jacket with me because I do think Alcatraz tonight might be a little chilly, but our first stop is the Japanese tea garden, which is inside of the huge park. And usually it's $15 to get in, but if you can get in between 9 and 10 a.m. on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, it's free. So we're gonna try to get up there. I highly doubt I'm gonna be able to make it in time because it's a 2-hour drive. So I think I'm gonna get there like 10 minutes after they close. So let's go see if we can catch this commute. California has an absolutely incredible transit system. So there's 3 main trains that run in the San Francisco area. That is the Caltrain, which is a commuter train, and then the BART and the Muni, which are more localized. It's $2.50 for the BART and the Muni. You can use a credit card or you can use the Clipper app. And I would highly recommend just go ahead and download the Clipper app before you even start your trip because it also works on the commuter train. So the Caltrain is how I got all the way up to San Francisco. It was about an hour long. You pay for distance. It cost me $8.50, and you can only do this through a single ticket purchased at a vending machine there or through the Clipper app. So honestly, save yourself the trouble and get the Clipper app. Do not Uber around the city and miss the opportunity to use public transit because public transit is honestly like a tour through this city. If you take the Ubers, they're gonna drive you the fastest route, which is usually through back roads. Because I took public transportation, I got to see so much more of the city, the beautiful pastel buildings, the shoreline, San Francisco Bay. That is my #1 tip, honestly, just for all of San Francisco, is utilize the public transportation. As I was on my way to Golden Gate Park, just based on where the train dropped me off, I was walking past this adorable bookstore, so I popped in and I got postcards to remember my trip by, and I also just had a really fun time looking around. They have really cool editions of books. So again, another gem that I would not have seen if I hadn't been taking public transportation. This next stop wins the award for the best part of my trip. I was seriously not expecting it to be this magical. I was like, I'm gonna spend 30 minutes walking around the tea garden and then head on my way because I had a full itinerary. But there was something so magical about this garden. I felt like there was a magnet pulling me here. I couldn't leave. Essentially, there's a lot of Japanese gardens inside of the Golden Gate Park. I only had time for the first one, but I loved it. The way the sun was, the trees, the colors, the architecture. There was something so special and enthralling about this place, and I was taken in. I brought my journal, I brought a book, things that I wanted to do, but honestly, I just ended up praying and thinking and processing and being. I met so many incredible people. The first person I met was a really kind woman from Japan, and she came up to me as I was ordering. She helped me order and convinced me to try mochi ice cream, which I'd never had before, but it is Japanese ice cream. A very strange breakfast at 9 in the morning, but absolutely amazing, and I'm so glad I did. She also talked me through the tea menu. I was just gonna get jasmine because I'm familiar with it, but I ordered something I'd never had before, and I was so glad I did. I also got to meet a really kind older gentleman, and he has been coming to this garden since the 50s. It was incredible talking to him. He gave me so much history and lore on it. Apparently, they used to have an open kitchen, so you could see them preparing the tea live in front of you, and they used to wear traditional Japanese garments, which I just think is incredible. I wish they would go back to this. I ended up sitting next to this girl who I swear was the Seattle version of myself. We had so much in common. She was so cool, so interesting. In these conversations, I got to learn a lot about Japanese culture, and one of my favorite things about being in this little cafe and watching the koi pond as I drank my tea was the way in which the tea is served. So they served it in traditional Japanese pots. But what's really nice about it is it's about the portion of, a big American mug, but you pour it out slowly so it stays warm. And I love that. I think it's a tribute to the Japanese culture, right? The way everything is slow. It's not about, if you have a big cup of American tea, you've got a time limit, you got to drink it. But Japanese culture isn't like that. It's very much about slow living. Being in this garden and being in this place just taught me so much about that, and it also inspired me for how I want to make my space at home. That seriously might have been one of the coolest places I've ever been in my whole life. After checking out the garden, I was really close to Haight and Ashbury, which is a really interesting part of San Francisco. So if you're familiar with the 60s countercultural movement, basically all started in Haight and Ashbury. So it's a really fun place to shop. There were so many cute gift shops and also so many vintage stores. I went to this one called Decades of Fashion, and seriously, it was a little scary in there, but they had clothing from the last 100 years, and they were very meticulous about it. So if you go in here, don't bring a backpack, be careful. But it was a really neat experience. Basically just started walking the street when the shops got really cute, and then I just kept walking. But I do want to point out, I stopped paying attention just because it was so cool and so fun, and then it quickly turned into not such a great part of town. So totally safe if you're by yourself. Just, be aware of your surroundings, be aware of when the fun ends and when the sketchy part of San Francisco begins. The next stop on my itinerary was Chinatown. I wasn't really sure what to expect, but I'd heard many people talk about how amazing Chinatown was, and it definitely is very exciting, very culturally rich, but also a little intimidating. It is very fast-paced. I didn't end up spending that much time here just because I didn't really want to buy a dupe of anything, and I was also surprised how much of a grocery store this district was. There were so many different vendors and shops, and they were selling fruit and vegetables and dead fish. Oh my gosh, dead fish. There was so much dead fish that the street smelled like dead fish. So I decided to pivot from my original plan, and I ended up taking a bus to the wharf. Pretty much as soon as I got to the pier, I realized that this was not where I wanted to spend my time. If I'd had a longer trip, I probably would have gotten some coffee, enjoyed the coastline, watched the waves roll in. But because I was limited on time, I grabbed some food. I got an empanada, and then I took quite a bus ride all the way up to Golden Gate Bridge. Oh my gosh, again, use the public transportation. It's beautiful and so fun. My one big regret of the day was not allowing more time at the Golden Gate Bridge. The whole thing is gorgeous. So you'll notice that there's a lot of fog. It's funny to me that you can see the shadow
shadow of the Golden Gate Bridge better than you can see the bridge.
The locals in San Francisco fondly call the fog Carl, and you can see how fast it's moving. What's wild is within 5 minutes, it totally resolved itself, went away. I also didn't know this, but there is a little cafe that overlooks the bridge. So highly recommend coming and allowing time to sit in the cafe, drink your coffee, watch the bridge. It's fascinating getting to learn the lore of such an iconic bridge. I mean, I've heard about the Golden Gate Bridge my whole life, but I didn't know anything about it. The entire bridge, 887,000 ton bridge, stays suspended in the air thanks to just 2 main cables, which is crazy. Inside those 2 main cables, there's approximately 80,000 miles of steel wire. So for context, if that wire were unspooled and laid end to end, it could circle the whole earth 3 times. I don't know about you, but it's hard for me to even process the gravity of that.
This is truly absolutely surreal. Why is this so beautiful?
The bridge is also earthquake ready. Being California, obviously they have extreme wind and lots of systemic activity. So the bridge can actually sway up to 27 feet. And on top of it, there was this little demonstration. So you could push it around and mimic different types of wind and earthquakes. And that was fascinating to me because I didn't know that it actually moved. If I ever get the chance to come back to San Francisco, I definitely want to bike the whole Golden Gate Bridge. I only got to walk about half of it because I was on a time limit. There's also this hike. Well, there's many hikes around bridge and the coastline, and I wanted to do it so bad. It's the Batteries to Bluffs Trail. I ran out of time and unfortunately did not have time to do that. But if you're planning a trip, please allow time to hike, to enjoy this area. Much like the Tea Garden, you can come and see everything really fast, or you can spend time enjoying it and just kind of like soaking yourself in the environment. And this is pretty classic San Francisco. Everyone talks about the bridge, and there's a reason why. It is iconic, it is beautiful, it is mesmerizing. The Pacific Coast is so magical, and the fact that there was essentially not that many people there, that I had the trails to myself, was amazing.
Pretty sure that right there is Alcatraz.
Okay, this is the craziest incline I've ever seen in my life. This is like straight uphill. Can you even see the bottom? I'm like huffing and puffing. If you're a Princess Diaries fan, you might remember the scene where her Mustang goes rolling backwards down a very steep hill, and honestly, that's how I felt like all of the cars were going to do just being in San Francisco. It is so hilly and wavy, and if you didn't know, Princess Diaries is indeed filmed here. One of the really cool parts of San Francisco is Lombard Street. It is supposedly one of the curviest streets in the world, and the incline to get up to it was crazy, so I would recommend, I don't know, taking an Uber down it maybe, but it was so fun. I walked some of it, I watched some cars drive it, and that's one of the things I love about traveling to different places is the landscaping is always so different. We don't have hills at all in Chicago, let alone a crazy curvy road. Okay, check out how steep that is. These inclines are crazy. It's like literally straight uphill and straight downhill. Now it is time for our Alcatraz tour, and I am late because I decided to take that little detour up to Lombard Street, which was totally worth it, by the way. But I feel like I'm walking down a mountain right now. I obviously cannot share about my trip in San Francisco without sharing about the Waymos. It was very weird watching them drive around. I brought Alex a present, and he said, ew.
I'm scared.
Okay, go for it. While watching Alex eat it, I thought that he was overreacting. Just go spit it out. There's judgments over there. Oh my gosh, this went that bad. But I did try it as soon as I stopped filming, and I can say that his reaction was totally fair.
It's like all the worst parts of matcha, plus it's the texture of a raw jellyfish.
Look, you can see the water.
A really cool part of visiting Alcatraz Island is that the tickets include a ferry ride. We specifically went at sunset, one because Alex was working all day, but two because it allowed us to watch the sunset over the Golden Gate Bridge, and it was the coolest.
It's falling apart.
From the very first minute that we booked our plane ticket to San Francisco, I was most excited to see Alcatraz, and it didn't disappoint.
We're on Alcatraz Island.
I was absolutely haunted by the island, getting to learn about the lore. If you're not familiar, Alcatraz was the very first supermax prison. Essentially, that means maximum security, minimal privilege. The worst of the worst were sent here, such as Machine Gun Kelly, Al Capone. It stank. But it wasn't just the worst criminals, it was the craftiest criminals, the one who needed attitude adjustments or were in danger of escaping. Among those were the Anglin brothers. Now, the Anglin brothers started their life of crime when they were 13. They broke out from numerous prisons, and finally, a bank heist led them to being transferred to Alcatraz Island, supposedly inescapable. Over the years, a total of 36 different inmates tried to escape from the unescapable Alcatraz Island. 23 of those were captured, 6 were shot dead, and 2 drowned. The other 5 went missing.
We did not think Alcatraz was gonna be about the views, but like, wow.
Oh my gosh.
They were presumed drowned because their belongings were found floating in the bay. But there's also another side. It is possible they escaped and they left their belongings there to make it look like they drowned. There's supposedly a picture of them in Brazil. It definitely looks like them according to a missing persons specialist, but it is hard to tell because they have sunglasses on. One fascinating way the guards on the island tried to get ahead of escapes was that they allowed hot showers. Now, it might sound like a luxury, but their reasoning behind it was if the prisoners got accustomed to the hot water, they would be less likely to survive the freezing, icy currents of San Francisco Bay if they did try to escape. I've always believed that they did make it, but after being on the island and feeling how cold it was on a beautiful, hot summer day, 80 degrees outside, we were freezing. And that was just standing on the island, not even in the waters. So I can't imagine how cold it must have been the night that they escaped. They made it out of the prison building by digging holes in the walls with spoons, and we actually got to see it, which was incredible. Like looking at how small the holes were, how they would have had to make it through. It felt like getting to see a piece of history. The prison was mentally a really hard place for the prisoners. It was isolated, it was cold, it was windy. Supposedly the harsh confines of the prison even broke Al Capone, and he started playing the banjo for the prisoners.
Unpredictable.
It was also said on summer nights you could hear laughter and dancing and music coming from San Francisco, which would have made it really hard if you were there to hear people joyously living. George, or Machine Gun Kelly, wrote, "These 5 words seem written in fire on the walls of my cell. Nothing can be worth this." I am absolutely worn out. I am so tired. It's like 10 o'clock. Alcatraz was amazing. The tour was actually a lot shorter than I thought it was, but the views, oh my gosh, like the sunset views were stunning. I am also really proud of myself for figuring out how to navigate through San Francisco. I went through so many different
parts of town, all bopping around, and used a bunch of different train systems, and I figured it out. So if you are wanting to go on a trip by yourself and you're feeling a little nervous, this is your encouragement that if I can do it, you can do it. And it was lovely and it was fun, and I am so tired. So thank you guys for following along. I'll see you right back here real soon. Bye.